information and research. She's like the first person that was able to come and help last year with the summit. So I really appreciate her being back here this year. You know, it's wonderful to have her here. She's fantastic, so knowledgeable. You know, all that knowledge in such a pretty package. All right, so then we also have with us today the very, very, very well-known, if you don't know, Kerry Davis. Kerry Davis is of African Americans Ain't African fame. If you have not seen that Facebook page or seen his YouTubes as the Indigenous one, you need to catch up and kind of look at that because that's amazing. And just African American Ain't Africans, a lot of people got their start and their knowledge with that group, and it's got like over 30,000 members, so that's pretty amazing. Okay, so a lot of people know that we are not African. A lot of people know the true history. And a lot of us still don't know. And a lot of us still don't really understand. Like, we don't really get it. But it's our duty. This summit is there's a couple of goals today with you guys. The first goal is that we understand that we have to pull together. That we understand that we have to change the way we move in the world. It's the only way we're going to be able to win. The thing that they did with, you know, they're colonizing us and just infiltrating us and poisoning our minds and undereducating and miseducating us is they cause us to not really trust one another, to really not work together, to really believe in things that distract us from what we should be believing in, whether it's the government, politics, whether it's church, whether it's the news. We are all being distracted on purpose. It's not just us. All people are being distracted on purpose because it's to divide. We divide and we are conquered, okay? But the summit, if anything you get from this is that we need to pull together. And I mean in like simple ways, like family. Because really, being Indians is being family. It's not a religion. It's nothing like that. It's just families that live together and work together. And that's it. And what I want you to get out of this summit is like, we need to work and live together again. I mean, seriously, work and live together. People come into this country, they live in the same houses, and they save their money, and they build businesses, and they help each and every one of them build their businesses. And they do it off of our tax dollars. Our tax dollars, our hard work. And if you think, oh, slavery reparations, y'all are working every day and putting in money that people are taking. They take from us on the highest level. We pay the most in traffic tickets and every kind of way we can get penalized and pay out of our money, we get it, the worst. So you have to understand that it's time for us to organize so we can actually benefit from the money that we actually are working for and that's being taken from us. And through the through us kind of like coming together, doing our genealogy. See, this weekend is Indigenous Peoples Weekend, right? This should be our Thanksgiving, Christmas, all of that wrapped up in one. You want to give gifts to the kids, do it on this weekend. You want to have your family reunion, do it on this weekend. Because this weekend, this means something, okay? All those other ones are just to get your money when they want to get your money. But if you were to just change the way we do our holidays and change the way we see how we're moving, we can actually change the whole game. We have control over that. But this weekend should be your family reunion weekend. So like, you know, the way this was meant to be is that you could even bring your family out here and have your people, old folks like myself. It's the young people that we really care about. It's the babies. It's the under 35-year-olds. It's those people that need to have this information so that they can actually benefit, moving forward, change things. Be able to start businesses, be able to, you know, be educated in different trades and educate themselves in different things. We have the right to do that. We have the grant money available. So anyway, that's really it. It's about changing the way we do. Sewing into each other, giving our time, our money, our love, and not getting mad and getting over anger. Even if somebody acts like a nut, you gotta buck it up and just get over it because we do act like nuts. but we can't hold on to every injustice that happens. We gotta let it go and keep it moving. We gotta have that kind of rebound with each other. Because, eventually we're gonna run into something good. So that's what this is about. It's about learning to work together, learning to forgive and forget, learning to look the other way, learning to be positive, and to learn to build together. We have to be able to do that so we can actually share in the money and the resources that are due us. Okay, so I stopped at Kerry, and then I didn't get to Ron. Ron is also known on YouTube. Oh, are you coming up, Rich? Now, coming? Are you waiting? Oh, you're later. I think it's not your turn anyway. Yeah. Anyway, so Ron is known on YouTube as well. He's really very technical. He has a lot of information about history, a lot of information about ancient spirituality. He also has a lot of information about, he has a setup for solar information back there, about new technology. What is old is also new, because if you talk to Ron, you'll find out that we used to have all kinds of information. We were so technical, we were advanced society, we had all kinds of things. So we're trying to get that all back. So Ron has a setup with some solar panels and trying to, give us information about solar energy and that sort of thing. So that's what we have on the panel for right now. And you can look forward to Phoenix Moon joining the panel. And she's known for her genealogy information and all the kinds of historical information and research and law information. So she'll be joining the panel as well. All right? Okay. All righty. So we're going to start off with you. We're going to start off talking about how did we become African? How and when, and I would love all of you to all share your own experience of when did you think you were African, or what did you think you were?
I never thought of it. I just knew it was taught to us. But Ron is going to get into the ancient stuff. I just want to bring it up a little closer. And that was the Brown versus the Board of Education. That's a very important part, because that's when we started really getting into their schools where they can really get a hold of our minds. And one of the things about Brown versus the Board of Education that's important today is that, who was the brother that was on that, Thurgood Marshall? Do you know that his son is the CEO of the jails today? That's how deep this run. And this is why we can't be stupid. We can't be stupid. I first heard about that, the African thing first started, I first noticed it when I was a little kid. And you remember that movie, Raising in the Sun? Sidney Poitier's sister was dating an African and was saying, we're African. That's when I first heard of it. I know it was probably given in the colleges and stuff back then, but on the mainstream, that movie started setting it up. Then Alex Haley, and I always thought something was wrong with him, with his Malcolm, how he did with the Malcolm thing. So it was a story that just never made sense. And how we fell into it and we believed it and we started loving it, I never got it. But Roots, Mandingo, with Kid Norton, those were movies that were coming out in the 70s, and they were explaining how we were Africans. Nobody in my family never said that. Never. The older parents, the older uncles and aunts, they always had this quizzical look on their face like, well, what are you talking about? Because they weren't into the mainstream at that time. They were getting older and whatnot. But to teach us that we're African, and this is very important because you're seeing it with this election coming up with this chick Kamala Harris. So you see, she got to her position, all them Negroes. She got in front of the line with them, and all these sisters are pissed off now because they're like, well, how can she be vice president? Because you let her in. You guys the type of people that just, I don't care, we all the same, let's love. Now this sister's in front of y'all and about to, I don't want you. Well, no, well, you know what I mean. So this is what happened. All these people come over from around the world, and all they do is pretend to be you. Because you want to be Hebrew, you want to be all. We broke up into so many different groups, we look dumb. Because we won't be what everybody's trying to be is you. That's all everybody's trying to be is you. They taking your women now with this child trafficking thing. Talk to some FBI agents and ask what's going on with these little kids. And we playing dumb, always mad because we don't know nothing. We don't try to know nothing. We don't care if we don't know nothing. The youngsters, come on. How did your music evolve to what it is now? You hear the brother back there on the sax showing out. How we get to where we are now? So, if we keep this going, that's the end of us. So that's why, Lisa, I really appreciate her having things like that, because it's a time where we can all come together and information, you're gonna learn a lot here. This brother, Tasha, these people take their life energy to learn and to make sure they can pass on the information. So get it, ask them questions, because they have a whole lot for you guys.
That was outstanding. And there it is. That's that vibration that's going here, huh? So a lot of it,
If I can cut it off, if I can hear you.
Well, that's good. Everybody can hear me now? All right. So thanks, Kerry Davis, for that. That was an excellent segue into what we're doing today and what this is all about in terms of us being able to understand who we are as beings of people. So a lot of the things that I do everything pretty much from the political aspect of things and how we got to where we got to today. And my background is heavily built in investigations. So I use a lot of deep root analysis in order for us to be able to understand what we are doing. So when the people like Kerry Davis has said that everything happened in reverse, you have to take a look at to where you are today and understand that there is nothing new under the sun. This is one of the reasons why I brought the solar panels in. One of the things that we're doing, we're teaching people that the things that used to be are now coming back to us in terms of who we are and in our heritage. Everything ran off electricity. Our old buildings, our ancient, and I don't call them really too ancient, because not too long ago, before this reset happened, we were in control of the planet. And as we were in control of the planet, we had everything that we needed in order for us to be able to survive on this planet. Now, as you know, there's a lot of artificial things that are on this planet that are giving you colds, viruses, sicknesses, things that are not natural to you. And these are the things that want to keep you in the forefront of your face, to keep your vibrational presence within inside of you away from the being that's within you. And this is one of the reasons why they call you Indian. One of the terms of Indian is God within. So everything about us is within, everything about them are without. So when you're reading the Mahabharata or you're reading some of the old Chemite literature that was deciphered by the Greeks, they're always searching for something outside of themselves. And we, as we have wrote all of these things, we're always talking about what we have already inside of ourselves and how we can actually connect to the greater universal all that we're all a part of. So one of the things that I wanted to tell you is that my grandmother used to tell me, she says, you ain't no nigga. And understand that you aren't the same as some of these other niggas that are running around here looking like you. You are something that is special, and your blood is a lot more special than what you think it is. And that put me on a journey to try to understand exactly who are we? Where did we come from? And there were a lot of information that they kept from us that they knew and began to start understanding actually back in the late 1700s, early 1800s, about the creation of mankind and the creation of you. You are not of an artificial race. They knew that your melanin, and everything is based off of melanin. You look at Dr. Sebi, you look at Dr. Layla Africa, God rest those souls, but these are the type of doctors that we need in our presence today to give us an understanding of exactly what we are so that we can have an understanding of where we're going. Your melanin is a carbon selenium melanin. Most other melanins around the earth are based on a sulfur melanin. The sulfur melanin has to be oxidized, which means that it had to be artificially created, because there's nothing on this earth that can have an oxidized melanin contact without something messing around with it. They know exactly when they were created, and that's the reason why we look to the Kemite texts, we look to Abydos, we look to Seti Temple, and we look to a lot of the historians that went over there, and when they began to start reading those walls, they started coming up what they call the 4 races of man, which there are really 5, and that was the Root, which was the East African, the Nazi, not the Nazi, but the Nazis, which are the West Africans, and then they have a being of people called the Hemaru, which they call them the Semitic, which were the people from what they call Atlantis or the Americas, Lemuria, whatever you want to say. And then they had what they call the Tamahu. Has anybody heard of the Tamahu? Yeah. Right? So the Tamahu, and then they had the Hyksos people. The Tamahu actually, and Champollion wrote this wrote some disturbing messages to his brother about what the Tamahu means. It means light, right, created beings that are now living in a certain part of this world. So if you do not know your creation story, and a lot of this what's going on now is to keep you away from the actual knowledge of who you are on this planet. This is one of the reasons why they came over here on this side of the pond to try to wipe us out. And as they were trying to wipe us out, their own creations, which was the Root and the Nazi, who created the Tamahu and the Hyksos, some of the most violent, I don't even know how you can call it, but you know, because you're trying to be politically correct, right? But some of the violent species on the face of this earth, they kind of revolted. So this is how we got to, in a very, very short nutshell, as where we are today, because what they had to do, they had to make sure that a great reset happened so that you will become people with amnesia, not knowing who and what you are. It only takes about 50 years for a whole entire population or a generation of people to lose their history, so to speak. But because of what we have inside of us, what we're connected to in the universe, when we have people like TashaXi and people like Phoenix Moon and the people like Kerry Davis and a lot of the other people like the Rich Report, etc., when they're coming out and they're tapping into a universal consciousness that is allowing us to be able to wake up in order for us to understand who and what we are, and that we are a very special being on this face of this earth. Your genetics, which was published about about 2012, as they tested, they were doing a testing in Africa to see whether or not if the Africans were pure, quote unquote, Homo sapiens, that they weren't mixed in with Divinian. Divinian is another type of Neanderthal. Because as you know, other races of people have anywhere from 2 to 20% of Neanderthal genes mixed inside of them, right? So what they wanted to do was prove that, quote unquote, black people on the face of the earth aren't pure either. In their mistake, what they did is that they came across a genetic profile of African Americans here, quote unquote, African Americans here in North America. DNA that they weren't supposed to really be testing or allowing these testing get out into this type of mainstream. What they found is in these 200 pairs, DNA-based pairs of DNA, is that the African American DNA is more than 365,000 years older than their nearest counterpart. Wow. I'm gonna let that sink in for a minute.
That's amazing.
So when you start looking at, you know, when you say, okay, I need to know who I am, and you go to Tasha, Phoenix, start listening to all the stuff in reverse from Kerry and a lot of other, you know, you listen to the Rich Report and stuff like that, you begin to start understanding that what they did, when you read the rest of the article, a lot of people only read the first couple of paragraphs. Get into the rest of the article, and what they did, they had to take your DNA out of the polygenic tree and place it on a whole nother tree because they had no idea where it came from, and it wasn't connected with anything else or any of these other humanistic type species on the face of the earth. Who am I? And why don't they want you to know who you are? Because you are creation beings. Let me say that again. Without them, anything in this society, on this world that they created, or that in the world that they created, cannot have any existence without the energy coming from you. So when we say, why are we in this situation? Well, now that you're woken up, there is no actual reason why you're in this situation, because all you have to do is go out the open door. And anything that's around you will collapse and come tumbling down. So this is the reason why all of this is happening here. This is why we put out the solar panels, because we want you to know that there is nothing new under the sun. All of this is your technology. It's all your technology. During the Great Reset, what they did, they put in what they call fossil fuels. There's no such thing as fossil fuels, a word that they made up, in order for them to create something other than what was already there. The first cars ran on what? Battery. How did they have battery power when they really didn't have any electricity? Back there in the 1800s. That's because when you look at the old pictures, you begin to start understanding that they had telephone poles. Why would they have telephone poles with wires hanging all over the place if that electric technology wasn't there? The Antiqua tech that we come from, they took it amongst themselves and are now slowly rolling it out onto our society as though they created it themselves. You are the creation beings. And like my grandmother said, there is not one nigger amongst the group here. Not one African American. A word that didn't really exist until 1989? 86? Yeah. We know the story. And black, the only reason why black came out was because after they did the civil rights and they had all that Indian stuff in there, the first thing that they did is came out with that slick-headed James Brown, swarthy-looking dude talking about I'm black and I'm proud. And as soon as we started shaking our heads and I'm black and I'm proud, we changed the designation of ourselves and gave everything over to all these things now called minority. That's all I'm going to say for now. I want that to sink in. As you look at those solar panels, as you read Kerry's book, as you start looking at Tasha and trying to find out exactly who you are, you know now that you're a much, much different being. Not a person, because a person is the same as a corporation, and a corporation is a corpse, which is dead. That is not you. So be alive, and I'll send it over to Tasha so you guys can find out exactly who you are.
I gotta cut this on because y'all not gonna hear me.
We'll hear you. We promise.
You sure? No, yeah, that's okay. Okay, I'm Tasha, and like you were saying, I do a lot of genealogy work, research on history, and trying to figure out and connect the pieces on who we are. So to answer Lisa's question, when did I figure out that we weren't African Americans? It took me a while because I was in denial, and like I told y'all before, some of y'all before, I was a straight grandma killer because my grandma told me at 8 years old that we weren't from Africa. Because I specifically asked her, and she was a dark-skinned woman, so I'm like, I'm gonna ask the darkest person in my family, about Africa. And she laughed at me. She was like, baby, we're not African. She's like, those are beautiful people, but that's not our people. We're from here, and we always been here. So that kind of was like, okay, this lady's crazy. And then she was talking about we came from, migrated up from Mexico, and all these stories about, like what Anu was talking about, the time reset that happened. She was saying a lot of the history is not real. They went back and they changed a whole lot of history. They reset time, basically. So a lot of the stuff that I thought she was crazy, me and my brother would laugh. We still joke about it, but all this research, I'm finding out that she was right. And a lot of people who identify as African American today are not really African, just like Kerry Davis has been saying for years, and people have been questioning that. But all of us can be wrong. All of us. Once you do your genealogy, you're gonna find out who you are and who the people that we are connected to back in time. A lot of us, even if we are American Indians, we have connection to royal bloodlines in Europe, you know, and those people were not pale or white people either. They look just like us. So that's the connection that we are putting together. And then they try to tell us that we're mixed. It's like Anu was saying, and a lot of those people that they say we're 12% European, those people were not so-called white people at all. So we, in this process of doing our genealogy, putting our family trees together, that is one of the main keys to putting all the pieces together on what's going on and why they're doing this stuff to us, okay? And that's part of the answer and part of the solution on what we should be doing moving forward. Getting our families together, getting prepared, like you said, with the solar panels, getting all this information together so we know how to move forward and we can't be asking the question, what's next? Because you're supposed to know what's next for you and your family. And then as a unit, all of us come together and figure out what's next.
Halito. How's everybody doing? Well, genealogy is extremely important, and it's not something that's limited to people that are claiming to be American Indian. This is for everybody. This is how you stop oppression. If no one can tell you, if you can tell explicitly who you are, no one can make up a story about you. No one can include you under a blanket story that doesn't solve anything, that brings you nothing but pain, that takes away from your pride. So the thing that has happened, it's an ethnocide, it's a genocide. And there's a lot of things that people in the pre-colonial days, prior to the Revolutionary War, this is where it started and then it kind of trickled down. It's still happening to this day. If you look at other continents, they are now being colonized. Some countries in Africa established in the 1950s. Our grandparents are older than 1952. They tell you that your DNA comes from places that didn't exist 100 years ago. And then the people that are actually there in those places didn't live there 1,000 years ago. So who are they telling you that you're related to? It's no one else's responsibility but our own. In just 2 short generations, you can completely not even know anything about your family bloodline history. So that means there's a whole bunch of people that will come into your life and go, and you don't know that they're kinfolk. 6 degrees of separation between all of us. And I think once you get to like maybe the 10th or 12th generation of grandparents, we're all related in some kind of way, at least through one individual. 80 grandmothers ago, the time clock started at 0. So when they talk about ancient BC and ancient, there's no tangible proof that any of that ever existed. So what's important is that we deal what it is with what we have, and that is tangible proof and evidence of who we were in the colonies, whether they documented you, black, Negro, mulatto, Indian, white, slave. As long as you can prove that you were documented here in the Americas within these last 400 years, that's a start. And that's a start towards you finding out exactly who you are, what you're comprised of, what kind of relationships your families had that attach you to the culture that we see now that a lot of us don't even identify with because it's been said that it's a negative. A lot of the things that we do, we've done these things historically. We've always liked to party. We always like loud music, right? We like to cook, we like to host, we like to fellowship and be around each other. Those characteristics have been used against us to stereotype us negatively, but they've never been expressed that was part of our culture. Fish fry on Friday. Now, once you start to identify with that, you can associate who you are most likely to be similar to. The people that have fish fries on Friday, the grandma that makes grits, right? We eat cornbread. You know, the discipline, the matriarch of the family lays down the law and the grandfather enforces the law. We can all relate to those things. The family get-togethers, being close with our cousins, being our first social, peers. Your family is really the first people that you interact with on a social level. And then you go outside your house, and that's how you carry on based off of what it is that you learned from your family. So there's a lot of things that I think people may have a different, not you may, you will have a different sense of pride if you have answers to questions that have always lingered. You will notice that people will try and interrupt that pride, that prideful moment when you get a breakthrough in your genealogy and you no longer identify with the grand scheme of the story, because now you can place yourself in history. What can they tell you? So from 1610 up until 2020, you are able to now document what your people were doing, where they were, what they grew, who else they were related to, where these names come from, different names in your family. If you've always wondered, those names attach you to places that prove that you were here. We have just as right as anybody else that feels they may be more American than us. And I also want to make a suggestion, and this isn't to slight Native American people, but I need you to simply understand, if they were not in the 13 colonies, whether they were called a slave, free, or whatever, they have no business even talking to you about who you are. They can't identify with any of it. What we do now is what our families did 400 years ago. They eat grits, they fry fish on Friday. The women spanked the kids if they was out of line. You had the multi-generational households where everybody knew who grandma and grandpa was. Some people were even fortunate enough to know who the great-grands were, right? But there's always something that will bring you back, and there's a reason why you should stay on the land. What is your stake in America? It is a good time to find out. Specifically so that we don't have to keep looking to other people to do things that we're supposed to do for ourselves. There's a lot of blame that we can place on different people for different reasons. They've done some things to us as a whole, but we've done some things and we've neglected to do some things that help us be included. So we can't really harp on those kind of things. What we need to focus on is where we're going to go now. And then there's the thing, once you do find out who your ancestors were, then what? That's a different thing for you than it may be for me and my family. We don't all have the exact same issue. One thing we do know is that they took our identity. It's ethnocide and genocide, and those are crimes. Those are war crimes. We could start with that. That's a tangible thing. We can't go up under the umbrella, well, we came as slaves. Prove it. Prove it. There hasn't been anyone that can do it. We've heard about them, but they have been yet to prove it. And at this point, with these great scholars that they have, how come they can't narrow it down? Give me a time frame. Did they take you on a boat and bring you here from 1620 to 1650? Did they capture you from off the coast somewhere and bring you here in the 1800s? That still can't be enough closure. So to be able to just accept that, you know, that ideology, it leaves a lot to be desired. Specifically because you can't even prove that it's true. If you make a claim, you have to be able to prove it in order to be taken seriously or to get any compensation for your redress of grievances. We can all agree we've had a redress of grievances. Valid points, valid things that can't be ignored. But now here's the thing. We got all of these chocolatey people, and there's going to be a whole sea of chocolatey people against what it is that we're doing. Everybody is not an Indian. Everybody doesn't have the same attachment to the land that you have. It's not as important what happens in the future to our children as it is to anybody else. They're more concerned with them and their people, and they're doing what they're supposed to do. They're practicing racism amongst their tribes, amongst their people. They stick together, they do their own economics. We're the ones that have problems trusting each other. We're the ones that have a hard time letting go of $5 to a brother or sister that asks or tells that they need it. We're the ones that have to work on our relationships with each other, specifically with our families. How can we tribe up if we're not doing it with relatives? It's impossible. You have to have some sort of connection. It's very important. I see the beautiful children here. Talof, shout out to you and your boys and the baby girl. It's nice to see the children here, and they need to be around other children that have this same understanding, this same information, because we're not at school with them. We're not in their peer groups to where we know what kind of pressure they'll be under. Asserting the fact that they are a bit different than everybody else, and they have the right to be different. How do you tell your child, oh, baby, you are Indian and you got 20 other kids. Your child is hearing from 20 other children. You this, you that, you this, you that. Got to make them strong. You got to give them solid bullet points for them to assert themselves and be proud. Because after that, I'm pretty sure a lot of our families, they didn't tell us that because a lot of them probably felt, hey, they're just better off being black. It is very complicated. Once you come into this information, you're never going to be the same. You're never going to be the same. You're never going to go back and you start to, certain things start to fall away. The defeatist attitude starts to fall away. And then you start to assert yourself in your prospective city, town, village, and then collectively it'll be the entire world. Everybody is going to have to take a note as to what it is that, whatever our outcome is, everybody else in the world is going to benefit from it. This is going to be the model that we set going forward for people that have been oppressed, particularly here in the Americas, where they love to enjoy everything that we have. They never want to give us credit for it, you know, and then when they do, they tell us it's negative, they steal it and bring it right back, sell it right back to you in your face. We've always done some of the things that we've always done, and that the music has always been a part. That is culture. Doesn't have anything necessarily to do with heritage, because your culture can change. If you go from New York to California, it's a different climate, a different way people live out there. That's part, you gain access to that particular part of the culture. But heritage does not change. Who you are related to will never change. So we've upheld and had pride in different cultures and different ideologies, but have we really had pride in the heritage? If we forget grandma and grandpa, the world's gonna forget us. The world has forgotten us for this reason. Even to the people that, read the Bible and they have those, the Christian beliefs, that's fine, but it tells you to honor your mother and thy father. Have you done that? You open up the book of Matthew, you see all these different verses that pertain to Jesus' genealogy. If it was important for him, why not you? A lot of conflicts of interest based off of what we think is true. And it's a belief, because if you don't have the evidence, the facts, the proof, you don't have truth. You need those. Those are absolutely required. So once people are doing their genealogy, I think Tasha and I have spoken about this a couple of years ago, to get people to take interest in their genealogy. We've now found many cousins, other bloodlines, that are attached to the same grandparents that we have. So we're tribing up by doing so. Now we are going to have all these little fingers that make a big fist. That can't be denied. This is the Mike Tyson 60-second knockout punch. It's going to be a learning experience even for our oppressors, because we have a different way we're speaking now, because we have a different understanding of things. A lot of people, they just try to diagnose us, but they never really try to understand us. They never really had to, because we didn't try to understand us. We took every other people's perception of us and we kind of took it to heart. Either we, gained some tolerance and acceptance for it, or we completely rejected it. Either way, it is our job, individually and collectively, to worry about our own. Worry about our own. There's nothing wrong with feeling compassion for other people, but if you're focused on grandma and grandpa, and then here comes the flying saucer and makes you go this way, makes you go that way, if you're going up in the sky, you're not dealing with the land. If you're going all over the place, you're not focused on the land. The blood, the sweat, the tears, the oppression, everything. It has to go somewhere in its proper receptacle. Those days are over. We have solutions now. We don't need to focus on problems. We are finding ways to make sure that they put some respect on our name. And I just think consistency is probably going to be what pushes it all over the hill. It's absolutely going to be what pushes it all over the hill.
One of the things that everybody everybody can do is that these stories that they give you, you're gonna have to ask some questions back. So with this African story, when they start bringing this up, because it's about to get really big, they're gonna start pushing the African stuff. You gotta think of things to ask them to shut them down. One of the things you can ask them is, well, if all these Africans are coming over here, wouldn't it make sense that they do DNA tests with the people here to find out who they people are? When you say that, everybody will sit down. So that's what I mean, we gotta think. We gotta be up on, they're gonna hit us with a whole bunch of stuff, like they're doing now. And if we don't know, if we just, that's just what mass will say. If we like that, we'll lose. But if you start asking questions like, well, why aren't you guys doing DNA tests with the people over here? And that'll just, questions like that, you'll think of your own, and that's why we need everybody thinking. Everybody, you gotta be sharp in the mind, serious, especially what's coming up now. And everybody can see what's coming up now. Everybody sees it. So we cannot be not thinking, we cannot be not knowing, talk to people. The people here today, these people up on the planet, brilliant. Ask questions, read, find out stuff, because the information is out there. Go to these colleges around here, these historically black colleges and some of these universities. They got all kind of information on you. So that's all I want to say. I'm over here selling my book. Come check me out. I'm gonna give it back to him, Anu. If you have any questions, ask them, no matter what they are, because you're gonna get some answers.
And I just want to follow up on, what Phoenix was saying in terms of, again, who we are as people. One of the things that brought me into like a full circle of information was how many actual slaves came here in a 400-year period from when they say slavery first started. And the reason why I stuck with North America is because we know that the number is less than 300,000. They know that for a fact over a 400-year period, which means that there is very, very minimal. And then in some of my studies, I found out that, some of these colonies were only bringing in maybe 24 actual quote unquote male Africans into their colonies in a year, right? And the reason why they were bringing in the males was so that they can begin to start trying to do that breeding process and change that mentality, so that way you could begin to start thinking in a whatever they had going on over there, abusing their women and all kinds of stuff, which wasn't happening here. Then, as Kerry brought up, I was watching Roots. And one of the most iconic scenes in Roots was when now Kunta Kinte, the Mandingo, was trying to rap to the to the girl and everything like that. Don't you want some Mandingo, just that and the other thing? She says, I don't want no Mandingo. I ain't from I'm from here. I'm an American. And they didn't have many snippets in there, but they always put something in the movies so that you can have an understanding of who and what you are. They have to put something in there to make sure that wicked truth that they give you gets twisted up, so that way it's twisted in there, right? But you got to pay attention. And it all starts with finding your own personal heritage, right? I was looking at my heritage, and it went way back a little bit before 1700s, and a lot of my family members had migrated from the mountain. They were running from the mountains of Panama, right? They didn't call themselves African. No Africans in them. They were straight up. In fact, all these other names, they didn't even have any of these other names. All I knew is that they were from this land. They didn't say that any of their relatives were from Africa, slavery, or anything else like that. Then to come to find out, they were free people. They came up here, owned land. There were tobacco fields. I'm looking around us now where the tobacco fields, they putting up cotton. Cotton everywhere now, But it's important for us, like Kerry said, to ask those questions, right? I have a lengthy history and education, and I can take my college education and any other degrees that I have and say, what are they really worth? Because the information that I'm studying now and have been studying over the past 20, maybe 30 years, have nullified any information that I got in college. So one of my college professors said that the only thing school is important for right now in the field that you're looking at is to teach you how to do research. Teach you how to look at the information. Have an understanding that who's got the real stuff and who doesn't. Right? So somebody said, well, I'm a Mason, and I know this, and I know that, this, that, and the other things. Okay, I got up with them Masons and stuff like that, man. It was embarrassing, the information that they were coming up with. They knew nothing about who they were. They were only regurgitating. That's what school is, regurgitation of the information that they want you to know and give out to somebody else. Right? So when I started making those trips down to South America, down into Mexico, and I started looking at all these tunnels, and I started looking at all the stuff that's on the pyramid walls. What does Kerry say? Don't. You don't have to believe what I say. Believe what it says on the walls of the temples that they built. They drew that stuff. Understanding who you are is the beginning of opening up the keys to your own freedom. And if you as an adult don't have the mindset to be able to guide your own self, then the ones that are beneath you, and I say beneath you, the younger ones, the children, are always looking up to their adults as role models. And if they can't use you as a role model, they'll go off and use some swarthy individual as their role model, and next thing you know, you got all kinds of different types of things going on in your neighborhood that you say, how did this get here? But you have to look at your inner self. Where am I taking you? So when you do walk around and you're talking, and you're asking the questions about my genealogy, you take a look at Kerry's book and you say, all this stuff happened in reverse, and you get a lot of different type of questions to teach your grandchildren. So my grandchildren all tell their teachers, I'm an American Indian, or I'm indigenous. And they'll say, no, you're an African American. And they'll say, well, there's nobody in my family that comes from Africa. So how am I an African American? And where is African American anyway? So when I talk to my grandkids, this is what they're going out there and they're telling people now. Right? I almost got thrown out of school because I did a report on the heritage of our people compared to other people who were born with tails and this, that, and the other thing. And they called my mother and said, we can't have this kind of stuff going on in school. And I said, what did he do? Well, he wrote a report. A report about what? He said a report about people being born with tails and where people come from and their heritage. And she said, and you want to throw him out of school because he did research and found out this information? So when she says that they're going to come after you, and Kerry said they're going to come after you, Tasha said they're going to come after you, what you're doing now is laying the foundation for them to be able to talk intelligently and constructively about who and what they are and what's going on around them. Because the last thing that they want to do is have a constructive conversation with you. They always want to talk about your weave. The eyelash extensions are so beautiful, honey. Always want to talk about them new boots that you just got. Is that real leather? Got it on eBay. They don't want to have no constructive conversation. Right. When you start talking about, oh, you want to know something? My mom just rewired her house with solar, and now we don't have to pay any electricity. That's, well, you want to know what? The Jets just got another COVID thing. I think they're shutting down their facilities. What? They don't want to have a conversation with you, right? And they always want to throw somebody in front of you who was brought up by them. So you have to look at their backgrounds. Who are these people? And the people that they put in front of you on your TV and everything else like that are sponsored by those who don't want you to go in the right direction. So you say, I never heard of Phoenix Moon, Tasha's Eye. Who the hell is this cat Kerry Davis? The Rich Report? What are you talking about? They won't put these people up there. Why? Because it goes against the narrative that they gave you. So you have to ask yourself today, when your kids go to school and they're being taught, because I was at work, working now, again, back for one of these government entities, and they had, Cultural Awareness Week, Cultural Awareness Week, and this guy got up there and he's talking all about how we're all the same. Black Lives Matter, baby, And I was like, wow, this guy's saying all kinds of stuff, we were slaves, and when they brought us over here on the boat. I mean, and when you're hearing this, I know the truth, right? I know what's going on. I was like, how can people believe this? And you hear this hallelujah, oh, those poor people on those boats, our ancestors. And I'm saying we don't.
Who's we? That's nothing. Who's we?
I started laughing. My co-workers are looking at me, what's wrong with you? I said, you believe this stuff? And then the guy came out and says, with my father from Antilles, he wasn't even from America. He got other people teaching you about racial and all kinds of stuff, and they're not even from the neighborhood you live in. So when she says that she's linking all your grandparents up, and you're creating this fist, I'll go back and tell you again, know your creation story and remember about the wheat and the tares. That everybody that looks like you is of you. And that's why it's so important to do the things that we're doing here today.
Indeed.
Yeah, to jump on to what Anu was saying, we got to start having these conversations with our family. We got to start talking about the things that they haven't talked about in 1 or 2 generations, because that's going to make everything. That's gonna make everything come together. Okay, so start talking to the elders. Start checking on the elders, taking care of them. A lot of our elders are in homes now. They're in old folks' homes. We don't check on them. We don't take care of them. We don't talk to them. So once you start talking to them, you're going to get a whole bunch of answers on who you are, and that's going to be the solution on how you proceed in the future. We don't see benefit in our elders anymore. We don't see them as keepers of the family or anything. So that's one of the key, and that's why, we had came together, me and Phoenix, we came together to make the No Grandma Killer store, which is, separate entity from this, but to stress the importance of our ancestry, okay? Because that's one of the main things they've been keeping from us for years. How come all these other people, Europeans and all these other people, know their ancestry and we don't? Why was that hidden from us? And why is that, such a big dupe thing that they're doing with these DNA tests? Why would they make such elaborate schemes to keep us from knowing who we are? And like Anu was saying, because we're special people over here. A lot of us didn't come from slaves, and even the enslaved people, a lot of them were Indians. They built plantations on top of Indian villages. You can look up any plantation, Virginia, North Carolina, all these areas, and you will see there's an Indian town there before they put that plantation there. And a lot of those people were Indian people enslaved there. So that's one of the key things that a lot of people don't know, and they keep going back to the roots. They keep going back to the roots thing, which is fiction. The book is in the fiction section. Kunta Kinte never existed. A group of Virginia genealogy researchers went out to research the story. They found out he didn't exist. And actually the word, that's what I was about to say, actually the name Kunta and Kinte are Choctaw words. Kunta and Kinte, you can look it up in the Choctaw dictionary. They're Choctaw words. So it's kind of like a big joke to us that we are all, back in the 70s, 60s, whatever this came out, people jumped on the Back to Africa movement, wearing dashikis, saying they trying to find the Kunta Kinte in their family, and the man never existed.
Right.
The book is in the fiction section. He got sued
That's right.
for plagiarism from
That's
a
right.
white man who created a story called The African,
Yes.
a fictional novel.
Harold Corlander.
Yeah, Harold Corlando. So a lot of people are still stuck in the 70s in the mindset with the pro-black and the Pan-Africanism that came from that book. That's the root of a lot of this Pan-Africanism that we still have today, and that was all fiction.
Right.
So
He lost that lawsuit, had to pay $600,000
right,
to the actual person who wrote the book.
right. So it's all a big, it's a all big elaborate scheme. That's where you have to go find out who you are yourself. Don't let anybody else tell you who you are, and don't leave it up to anybody else to do it. So that's what we all have to be doing right now.
Question, can you two please take a look, just a little bit of time, and explain the name No Grandma Killers and what it's all about?
Okay, a grandma killer is someone, irrespective of sex or gender, that has heard oral history from their family and they emphatically and completely deny it based off of the propaganda, words from other outsiders that have no idea who you are, who your relatives are, where you come from, and you deny your own bloodline, tangible history. That is a grandma killer. That is a grandma killer. What the Pan-Africans do, as we tell them and assert who we are, and they say, no, you're not, you're African. They're a grandma killer. They have to steal someone else's African granny to assign her to me. And I got my own. We got our own. And she makes grits, and she makes cornbread, and fries fish on Fridays. We don't eat fufu, and fufu should probably come back too, because that's a West African dish made with American ingredients. The cassava, the plantain. Bring back the potato salad. Don't let them walk off with the cornbread. Something very interesting happened in 1968. April 4th of 1968, they killed Martin Luther King. He was assassinated. April 11th, 1968, a week later, the Civil Rights Act, Public Law 90284 was passed. Lyndon B. Johnson signed it, and if you ever get a second, check out the video from 1968 and look around that room and see who's in the room when Lyndon B. Johnson signed that law. You will see people that look like your grandfathers, your brothers, your uncles, the men in your family.
You don't see aim.
That's an absolute fact. There's no sitting bulls in the crowd. No Geronimos in the crowd. You see groomed men in suits looking sharp and dapper like our grandfathers did. That's who you see around that room. That's who the Indian is. That law specifically says Indian. It doesn't say black. It doesn't say Negro. It doesn't say African. It doesn't say African American. It says rights of Indians. In America, there's what we call single subject matter. So when there's a bill enacted to become law, if you have a bill for the giraffes and that law gets passed, you can't insert, oh, we want to save the elephants too. You have to do a separate bill. So there's nothing involved but Indians in the Civil Rights Act. And everybody knows about the movement. You've seen everybody that's participated in the movement, and they all look like some familiar people to us and our kin. Shortly thereafter, on the college campuses, everywhere that our people would assemble and gather after they passed a new Immigration Act in 1965, which allowed other people of color from different nations, different continents to come here. And as they are coming here, they're getting different visas, free educational opportunities that were not afforded to our people. The propaganda that ensued after that, the Black Panther Party, you had the dude that created Kwanzaa, you had all of these different things, and then you had a bunch of mass media, RBG colors, kente cloth, and that repetition has perpetuated for the last 5 decades, and now The American Indian Negro don't know who he is. He forgot. He forgot. 1968, those are still the people that knew Grandma said they was Indian. They put the drugs in. There's one generation that forgot to remind us, hey, you guys know you're Indian. Next generation came, nobody talked about it, and now there's a whole generation of people that don't know what the hell we're talking about. They don't know who their grandmothers are, the great-grandmothers, the great-grandfather, the great-uncle. They don't know. They don't know. We don't have the recipes that great-grandma had. We stopped transferring things down to our own. And our kids have been inheriting dust. They have inherited pain. We've transferred all of this terrible energy, this bad information, down to different generations. And we're gonna pay for that. May not be paying now, but when we're 90, do you think these youngins that are heartless and cold and don't know who they are gonna be good CNAs and nurses to us in our old age? Where's the compassion gene? They have a reason to be angry. They've been lied to, they've been assigned places that they don't belong to. They can't find any connection. So when they hear these things, it confuses them. It angers them. They're probably bored in school hearing lies about their grandmother, hearing lies about their people. Maybe they won't do well in school for that reason. That's why we need to school our own. You can't expect your enemy to teach your children the truth. They'd be a friend and not an enemy if that was the case. It's far from the case. So with that law being for the rights of Indians, we've never got to use it because they were completely sidetracked. Power to the people, right? The fist went up in the air. The red, black, and green superseded the red, white, and blue.
Yeah.
Disassociated ourselves with the land, disconnected ourselves from the family. And it's so funny how everybody in the world wants to be like you, but we want to be like everybody else in the world. Look at how they dance. Now what do you see them doing? TikToks, doing all our dances, doing everything, right? Everything. We have been the creators since time immemorial. What we haven't done has been the preservers of that time. This is where we can start. It's not too late. But if we don't do it now, we might as well just fade to black. And stay black. Stay black and die. As if black isn't dead in the eyes of the Lord already. So we die twice. Maybe even 3 times, because nobody will remember your name when you're dead. And we're going to be dead a lot longer than we'll ever be alive. Gotta make it count. Gotta make it count.
Yeah, so it's very important to really follow up with who and what you are as a being of people. And everything that's being said here now has to go down as a testament of our, and I hate to use that word awakening, but there's a vibrational presence on our plane now that is actually vibrating you, and you know that something is not right. And it's been feeling that way for quite a long time. And as we're going through what I've called and found out as a carbon 12 to carbon 7 type transformation, anything on this planet that is artificial is being done away with because we're changing at the cellular level. And this is one of the reasons why they want you to forget who you are, because they are cellularly changing you through your diet. They're reprogramming you. Remember, your food that you eat is programming, right? The food that you eat is programming. So if you eat a whole bunch of Cheetos and a whole bunch of, potato chips and all that other type stuff, the body is going to use whatever it can to use it as building blocks. And those building blocks all of a sudden turn into a Cheeto transformation when your brain is trying to rewire and fix itself. So they lied to us and said that the brain does not create new neurons, but it does. They also lied to us and said that the brain does not rewire itself, and it does. So all the things that they're feeding us, which is GMO, what is GMO? Organisms. Organisms.
Yeah, that's what they are.
So that's when you listen to radio programs, our radio programs, our American Indian, Indigenous radio programs, these are the things that we begin to start telling you about what's going on with the environment that a lot of people are begging to be a part of. Instead of feeding our minds the information that we need to have in order for us to grow into what we're supposed to, such as what Venus Moon is talking about, Tasha, and a lot of us here today, we are gravitating towards, the Joe Biden, Kamala Harris debate. We gotta vote for, we gotta get him in there. There it is. Right? I don't like Trump, but you wanna know what Trump said? Let me tell you what Trump said. He said, you black people better understand something. You better learn your history because you're getting ready to repeat it. Ooh. I haven't even had my afternoon coffee yet.
Just remember your ethnic identity always changes. African American now, it was black, Negro, colored, mulatto. And you have to
I'm
act.
about to be sub-Saharan African.
Yeah. I mean, because that's what we pick up, we take this stuff and we champion it. And you have to ask yourself, why do we always change? Why nobody else is changing, but ours is always changing? Other people can come in and get up under you and take your stuff. That's what's happening. So with these little kids up here, these youngers, y'all better let them know. Because that civil rights era, they done sat down. That John Lewis thing, that's over.
Right.
And you've seen what they done.
Right.
The children of those people, it's time to step up, and that's all of us in here now. So y'all see what's happening. It's happening right in front of you. You got to stand up. So, is there any questions for the panel? Anybody got any questions for the panel?
I don't think I need the mic. I don't have a question so much as I have a comment. And that's on a lot of information being lost. Because another thing that they have done is take cursive out of school. So when you're going back doing all of this research and you're looking at the documentation, especially as you get as far back as the 1700s and 1600s, everything is in cursive.
Right.
And is it in proper cursive? And even for me, I'm 50, I had to learn how to do it like in 3rd, 4th grade. It's kind of hard to make some things out, and you gotta ask someone else that understands cursive, like, what do you think this says? Is this a W or is this an M? Because some people got real fancy with it, right? So you can imagine our children who don't learn cursive in school, if they have to pick up on your research, or if they take an interest in research, they're not gonna be able to decipher this information, and so it is gonna eventually become hieroglyphics. So you have to teach your kids cursive at home, otherwise, all these documents that you're saving digitally, or if you're printing them out or anything, they're not gonna be able to then translate it to their children, and they're gonna have documents, just like we have pictures of hieroglyphics sometimes in our homes and shadow boxes, right? Because we're thinking that's part of our culture, and this is part of our culture, these documents on these grandmothers, right? And I have a document, for instance, and I just saved it real quick. And it's on my 5th grade grandmother who was born in Powhatan, Virginia in 1767, right? I never even heard of her until I started doing this research. Because my family left Virginia and came up north some years ago, right? And I shared it and nobody got excited. And all my nieces and nephews, like 40 of them, on Facebook, And I like tagged them in it, and nobody's responded. Excuse me, my throat got dry. Because they couldn't understand it. Excuse me.
Yeah.
So, thank you. Thank you. I was eating peanuts. Thank you. But the document reads, at a court held for Cumberland County, the 26th day of August, 1851, William Coy, a free Negro boy of mulatto complexion, 4 feet 6 inches, about 12 years of age, son of Nancy Coy, born free in the county of Powhatan, having produced to the court satisfactory evidence of his freedom, it is ordered that he be registered according to and testimony whereof I have hereinto subscribed my name and affixed the seal of the said court at office this 26th day of August 1851. So this wasn't the one I was talking about, but it shows you how it said that his mother was born free. Her paper says that her mother was born free. Sarah's paper said that she was born free, not that she was freed, but that she was born free in 1767. So where's the African slave?
Right.
Because they were born in Powhatan. Everybody was said that they were Pamunkey, right? And if you look at the time period, the names of some of the children, Littleberry, Keziah, Powhatan, right? Because that was a way of them linking us to our heritage,
Yes.
right? And that doesn't change. So it's just crazy that a lot of these things, that everything what they're saying, like they're pulling all of this stuff out of schools.
Right.
They're dumbing us down, they're dumbing our children down. Because they know that we're waking up, right? For lack of political correctness or whatever, right? And we're starting to uncover who we really are. And they don't, it's not like they don't know that we're finding out this stuff. It's not like they don't know that we're searching for these things, right?
Right.
Because it's eyes on us now in the government, on a lot of us that are doing this heavy research, right? They know what we're looking for, right? So you gotta really not just gather this information, but you gotta document it, you gotta keep it somewhere safe. I was just saying to someone that I have to print out all this information, get a fireproof lockbox, you know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Because these are jewels, these are treasures. I have grandchildren now, and I want them to be able to teach their grandchildren this, right?
That's right.
Because somewhere along the line, we lost this. I have cousins that have known this history and grew up with it, grandfathers that spoke the language up until like maybe last 40 years ago, right? But what happened with my branch of the family that didn't know it? That we just heard little bits and pieces of legends, and you're thinking like a lot of people, when people say, oh, I have Indian in my family, oh, because you got good hair, or you must have Indian in your family, and it becomes kind of like a joke. Or kind of cliche. But no, it's the truth, right? Because, and I'm gonna tell you how true this is, and I'm gonna sum this up real quick, right? I started doing my ancestry research, and since the pandemic, I shut down, because you know, can't get out the house and that sort of thing, right? I somehow tapped into Tasha's site on YouTube. She started mentioning all these different names and stuff, and I'm like, that sounds familiar, that sounds familiar. Like, everything was ringing a bell. Long story short, we're cousins. We have the same third great grandmother who was born on a Matapana reservation, right? So this thing is like, so what we're saying is not an exaggeration. So I just want everybody else that's not as familiar with them to know that I didn't know her before this year. I didn't know her before this research. It's like we kept like probably just missing each other. Because I had gone to a couple of reunions, but they were Hill reunions, but we're related Hill Anderson. You see what I'm saying? So those little tiny degrees of separation where you're just bypassing each other, you know, not even knowing.
Right.
And so that real key part with Tasha, with the whole surname thing, because you can be doing your family research and not even knowing the other names that you're not as familiar with are connected and how they're connected.
Right.
Because all I knew was Hill, Anderson, Milner, Carter, right? I didn't know about Dabney, West, Collins, you know, all these other names. Because the further back you get, the broader it gets. And so you really have to be familiar with the surnames and stuff. So like, just take all of this information, take notes, gather it, because it's extremely crucial. You know, I can't even express that enough. It's important, and she's so right, because it changes the whole game. Because I have friends that are real deep into history and politics and all this sort of stuff, right? And you can't tell me anything now, right? You can't bring up all of this, you know, propaganda and everything, right? Because I know who I am. I can trace my family back to 1400. Like, we have grandparents that are in some of these posters around here, right?
That's right.
And so you can't say the same thing to me that you can say to somebody that doesn't know any better, right? You can't school me on something, on history, when I know my own family history.
That's
and
right.
it doesn't coincide. So we really don't even know American history until you learn your family history. And you start seeing things totally different.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me just back up, just piggyback on her for a second there, because in Canada, they have a new group out called Métis. Has anybody heard of the Métis? Métis are new, federal, recognized Indigenous, First Nations, Aboriginal, American Indian group that come from the French side of things. So they were the French who had made it with the Asian Indians, came up with another group, which they fought for their recognized status for a long time. And only here recently, over the past few years, have they been granted that status as Métis. So what does that mean? What that means is that what they're doing, they see exactly what's happening in the real American Indian diaspora of things, and they're doing a lot of things to hurry up again, to try to cover up a lot of this road work that we are now uncovering from that great reset, in order for them to be able to maintain their status of who they are in possession of our land. Right? And when it comes down to cursive and math, well, they changed math on us. Right? If you don't know how to do math, you can't think critically. Right? You can't work out problems. Right? And then when it comes down to cursive, when I'm writing up safety plans, site-specific safety plans for the oil sands, I write everything in cursive, right? In script. So they came to me and told me, you can't write it like this anymore. Could you please either just type it out or just write in print? And I was like, well, why? Now, the engineers didn't have any problems with it, right? Because they all read in script. It was some of the other people and people who are coming out of schools and the younger guys and stuff like that, and I'm talking about anybody 45 and younger, didn't know how to read script. And they said, well, you know, because half the people that, you know, that you're trying to train on this can't read it. So again, when you're doing your genealogy, it's so very important, like she said, to be able to make sure that you have those records solidified, tucked away, because there's a lot of pictures that I went back from the 80s to look for in the 90s of what they did to our people that were out there, you know, they were out there on the internet. They were out there in what you call microfiche and all that other type stuff that aren't there anymore.
That's right.
Right? Not there. So they are still going to do everything that they can to make sure that we as a people never find out who we are, so then that way we can never get our lands back.
That's right.
And if you as adults aren't able to help the young ones to understand what's going on, even if you have a limited knowledge, they won't have anywhere for us to be able to pick up on to be able to carry it forward.
I'm sorry. That is absolutely sure.
I was having this debate with my mother this morning. We know that we are Choctaw and trace back to Oklahoma. But she was questioning the Trail of Tears. And I was sharing with her that more research is possibility that didn't happen. So she was asking, well, how did we get from the East Coast to Oklahoma? And I said to her, well, you have to recognize that we were everywhere. We were already here. We didn't necessarily have to travel from anywhere because we were already there. So I'm trying to help her to understand because it's hard for me too. I was like she said, I was a grandma killer, and my great grandmother been told us you're Choctaw. But when you get all this other so-called newfound knowledge, so-called,
Right.
then we get confused. So I was just wondering if any of you could share with me something that I could take back to her to help her understand that we didn't necessarily have to migrate from the East Coast of Oklahoma. And even if we did, could you give me a better way of explaining it to her?
Okay. Yes.
A lot of the names, what they use aren't even the names. You can go find maps. There's thousands of names of people and nations that aren't even used to this day.
That's right.
It's millions of names. So you got to remember, this is American English. So you see how people in the South talk? You know, that's their language. That's their indigenous language coming through. A lot of these English words, these English people didn't come over here talking how they talk now. They came into your territory and you taught them to speak, spell, and all of that.
That's right.
Another way that the indigenous people, what they did, how they traveled by rivers and lakes. They could tell you anything, and that's what they normally do. Trail of Tears, you say it's not true. They could call those people in that part. They could call those people over there whatever they want to do because we're the hand that giveth. They can tell you anything, and that's normally what they do. And we have to be up on that because this has been going on for so long. Later for what they say, what you say, what your people say. And there's people out there that know. And they normally don't say nothing because you see how it is now. We don't want to know nothing. Shut up, you know. We'll follow that African story. And it's people out there who know. What I would suggest is get a map. And just check out that and follow that map.
That's it. I want to add that as far as the Trail of Tears is concerned, the Choctaws didn't walk anywhere. They didn't walk anywhere. The Seminoles, they definitely was not letting the Seminoles walk past no bunch of no plantations or nothing, right? To send them anywhere. The Cherokee, the most resistant, they were the last ones, and they walked. Not only did they walk, they didn't give them any notice. It's time to go. Y'all, the eviction papers done ran out. There was definitely ways that they were able to stay. It wasn't all by force, right? The Cherokees walked. The Seminoles went on a boat. The Choctaws and Chickasaws, they left via ship. They did not let those people that were free a lot longer, walk through the lands where other people were not free. They were not. That story doesn't even make sense. Definitely, there's in Georgia, and one of Lisa's people, she works for the archives in Georgia, and she can attest to this. In Georgia, they have specific records for the people that did not leave on the Trail of Tears, that may be attached to the same tribes that ended up in Oklahoma.
Yes, we do.
Yes. Yes.
We do indeed have records from the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and it chronicles a lot of the tribes that did not go on the Trail of Tears, that were there. And to piggyback on what she was saying about person,
Yes.
for years I have been complaining, because I am one of the ones that transcribe from cursive into print so that they can digitize it.
Yes.
And I have been crying about not having enough help. DC finally granted me thousands of dollars to hire interns. I had one intern because that person was the only person that could actually be and transfer person.
Wow, that's
And
crazy.
so we have about 175 cubic feet of records. I would probably say 65% of those records are in cursive and script.
Yes.
And if you can't read and write them, you're not gonna know.
Insane.
I've been with the archives 21 years. I'm 55. I'm gonna retire in about 3 to 5 years. And you can't hire somebody to take my place.
To the place, right?
And, we have some elderly volunteers, but half of them say, well, I can't really see anymore.
Right.
So if you know how to write cursive, we cannot expect the schools to do, because they have their own agenda.
That's right.
We have to be able to teach our kids what we know.
That's right.
For their own good, because if they ever take up where we left off with genealogy, and some of the things are written, court records or whatever, probate courts and things are written in cursive.
Don't release
They're
this. The
never
mic's
gonna
not
be able
working
to
anymore.
decipher what
Because I definitely
happened to
need
their
it.
families. So it is really important that
Yes.
you
Yeah,
make sure
we're
that you
almost-
teach them what
Yeah, almost
That's
done.
right. That's right.
And I just want to just back up and talk about the era of the Trail of Tears, which I believe is incorporating with the time of Andrew Jackson. So one of the things we have to remember is that during that time also were the Great Seminole Wars that a lot of people don't even talk about.
Oh, yeah.
They also don't talk about the wars against the Cali that was going on at that time, which they called the Great Gold Rush. And they put contract killers over there to be paid through the scalp. I think it was $5 a scalp when it first happened. So during the Seminole Wars, what happened is that there was a combination of all different types of American Indians, some Native Americans as well, was what they called Native Americans, which were granted the right. Actually, it was the American Indian, which was and I have to just say indigenous to make sure everybody understands what that means. The copper-colored people that originated in the land was given the rights to rehabilitate Florida by the Spaniards, by the Spanish government. They gave back the land to our people, right? So there was a lot of our people that were migrating into Florida in order for them to be free, because they were going back to now. It was their country now. This was a country, had nothing to do with the United States of America. Andrew Jackson, against constitutional law, an illegal action, an illegal move based on falsities, saying that the peaceful people of Florida, which were the indigenous people, the American Indians, the copper-colored people, were having raids into Georgia. What he did, he took the American military against the orders of the Congress and went into Florida and invaded and slaughtered every living being he can try to find. They were warring with these people, and then from there they were warring these people, and it went way down into the Everglades. They were fighting with them for a very long time. This is where that story of Spartacus starts to sound kind of reminiscent, because I don't have the name in front of me now, but there was a copper-colored Indian, American Indian, who said, we're going to battle our way out of Florida, through Georgia, through all of the southern lands, and they battled their way into the beginning parts of what we now call Mexico.
John Horse.
All right, John Horse, right?
John Horse.
Osceola too.
Osceola, yes.
One of the greatest stories you can ever read, and I tell you, if you ever want to get that feeling of this great vibration of how great you are, these people beat up on some of the greatest military minds that you could ever throw at them. And Andrew Jackson was ruthless.
Yes.
These people were ruthless. Remember, these people have been killing a lot for a long time.
Mainly women and children.
That's right. They were slaughtering everything that they could find. And what they did, they battled their way. They never lost. And made their way into Mexico. And still to this day, the only group of people on American soil that never lost the war were those people who they called the
The
Seminoles.
Seminoles, right.
But you know what they were doing in Georgia, right? They're getting their family back out of enslavement.
That's
Yep.
right. That's
And
right.
technically, there's really no such thing as a Seminole. That's the name that they acquired.
Right.
They're really upper and lower creeks. They're Muskogee people.
There you go.
And there's all sorts of declarations. They're a mixture too. There's the Chickasaws, there's the Choctaw, all the people that were generally in that area as well. There's still tribes that are non-existent now, like the Temecula and the other people that were there as well. There's always going to be a thread. You can cut a tree down, but the roots still remain. John Horse has descendants. Who is John Horse's descendants? There's probably at least 2 of them in this room right now.
South Carolina, Geechee.
Right. And that's another story where a lot of them do not believe that they are American.
The UMassey too.
The Yamasee. Well, you know what? In all fairness, I can probably understand why they would feel that way, particularly because of the time frame of the Yamasee Wars and the Negro Act of South Carolina. It probably directly affected them. Specifically because of what type of Negro they're speaking about. So that kind of shut them out. If they were speaking specifically of the ancient Berber lines of people that they were already having the Corsairs of the Barbary Wars with, those are their prisoners that came into South Carolina. So those slaves still have descendants and still may be entitled to some sort of reparations or restitutions in that regard. We don't know exactly, and truthfully, I don't have any of those relatives, so I don't think I have to look. But it's in the best interest of people that may have relativity to them to check a thing out. Because once we're done finalizing things here, a lot of people need to know there's going to be a bedroom somewhere with your name on it in Buckingham Palace, in Lancashire, Scotland, right? In Ireland. There's going to be some of those royal descendants. And guess what they married into? Royal Indians over here. They married the best of the best. They married the best of the best, the prominent families. We always came from style and grace. Look at the way our grandmothers behaved, elegant ladies, sitting there just very quiet and dainty and feminine and just quiet thunder. A lot of our grandmothers were quiet thunder. They were slow to speak.
Back to wall.
Right? That's it. They didn't have to say nothing but one time. Don't make them repeat it. You don't want to see them repeat it. You get that look, that squinty-eyed look. That's part of our culture. The culture they say we don't have. Even the way that our children respect us versus the way we see other ethnicities, children do not respect their parents. Right? We have home training where we have who was the one that were put in charge to teach people, children, how to behave and be civilized, where they're enjoyable to be around. That came from the matriarch culture of the American Indian, the way that we reared our children. And it's been helpful to everybody else. And again, that comes back to people taking our culture and us wanting everybody else's. So now that they've learned how to perfect how to get their kids in a way where they're able to thrive, we've lost the way that we can teach our kids to thrive in a world that they don't think belongs to them. So.
All right, on that note, we're going to take a break. We're going to have some music. We have a saxophonist here. Have more panelists coming. We have places that you can, great vendors here that you can purchase from. You have the food truck. Get yourself something to eat. And we'll be back. Thank you so much.
All right, y'all. I hope y'all enjoyed. Please share the video out. Like the video. Thank you all for watching. I hope to see a lot of y'all next year down here. And we'll see some of you in Philly. All right, go to nograndmakillers.com to get tickets. Thank you. Y'all got any questions? I'll try to answer some of your questions. But I got let me get outside so I can answer some of your questions. Hey! I'm born here. He's here.
Making the journey, getting the knowledge, getting the understanding, living the life.
Excuse me. I'm sorry, we're live. Okay. I'll come right back. Alright, y'all, let me try to step out for a second. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We had a good time. Like we're still doing it. Y'all hear we have live saxophonists. We got a food truck out here, so there's a lot going on. I couldn't see any of the stuff y'all were saying. Hey, Candy. You said I'm muted? There's no sound? Can you hear me now? All right, put a 1 if you can hear me. I don't think y'all can hear. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's just so loud in there, so I think I kind of covered it with my hand. Y'all have any stuff that we're talking about? Hey, Rojo Chief. You really enjoyed it? Okay. Okay, y'all. But thank you. So I hope y'all understood what we were talking about and the importance of us coming together as families, making family plans, and on up and up from that. So you want to see outside? Yeah. So it's raining out here, so people are like, no problem, y'all. Please make sure you share this video out so people can hear that important message that we just, put out for you guys. You said you're unconfirmed that she's full-blooded Cherokee. Okay, I know you were looking at this. That's great. Thank you, Black Wolf. Yeah, it was a lot of people here yesterday too, so we're kind of pushed through. Thank you so much, Donnie, for holding down the chat room, because I see you kicking people out and deleting their messages for them. Thank you. So I sure couldn't do it. Like, I couldn't see it. Yeah, we're in Virginia right now, okay? We're in Virginia right now. A lot of people came out from a lot of places. People from Ohio, people from California, New York, everywhere, okay? People from all around. I think even somebody from Caribbean is here too. So we're all just coming together and representing. Let me show you the family tree for the Acomats once again. So in case you are part of these families, because some of us, only thing we can, we're finding on the census, it says Virginia, and we know the surname, but we don't know what area, what tribe. So this might give y'all some clues. Let me go in here. Y'all can hear some of the live jazz. So you can show them. Is there a website on there? So this is some of the Celestine's collection. We're in Cape Charles, Virginia. So they have stones, and they also have the bracelet. One of the bracelets I have on is right here. Say hi. That's Celestine's daughters. They're both of her daughters. So we have Sage here. So let me show y'all the family tree. Oh, we have these things right here too. What I wanted to show y'all. This is the Acomat family tree. Oh, let me step back so y'all can see the whole thing. But I hope y'all can see some of the surnames. Yeah, he's really good. Like, he was here last year. It's like he gets better every year. That's what I'm trying to do. I was trying to get y'all the full. So these are some of the surnames from the Acomats. And the blue, the red one are the on reservations. I mean, the red ones are the off reservations, and the blue ones are the on reservation. Okay. So I know some of us are seeing familiar surnames. This was the young man that they said was the interpreter. His family branch. They said he was a European, but he really was an Acomat. Okay. So you see Dixon, Evans, Francis, Joyness, Drummond, Cypress, Ames. You see all these names? Johnson. Smith. So those are some of the families that are related to the Acomat tribe. Let's show you some more stuff over here. You said Branson on there. You said put Branson. Okay, I'll let her know. These are some Acomat artifacts. Got that?
I never read that one. You?
Skate bridge. No, I did it like last year. Yeah, I read this one before.
You did. I never read that one. I've seen it, but I've never got the opportunity to read it. That's a hard book to get a hold of.
No, it's online. It's on archive.org.
Is it? I'm gonna have to cop that.
Yeah. Donnie said hi. Flip it around.
That's twice.
Bam said what up.
What
He
up?
was here last year.
Yeah. What up? I'm on, well, not next. Third. We're gonna talk about some stuff. Tasha already killing it. You know how she do it.
Thank you. Let's see what Kerry Davis is doing over here.
I think there's a connection. She's an Anderson. I'm an Anderson, adopted Jones, and okay.
She looked like my aunt and uncle. You can see it, right?
That's crazy. Yeah.
But she's online.
Kerry Davis over there signing autographs.
That's where I learned from.
It's got a glamour shot.
I know, right? Kerry looking like a member of After 7 in that picture, though. It was the heat of the moment, ready or not. Yeah, Rick came across that last night.
You can go to AfricanAmericansAintAfrican.com, I think, to buy the book. Bam's laughing at you.
What's up, Bam? Hey, yo, I emailed you, bro. I emailed you, Bam. I was hoping I'd see you this year, man. We hang out.
You can get the book on AfricanAmericansAintAfrican.com. That's where you can get the book.
I got a reading list, right? So I can.
We're in Cape Charles, Virginia. Yeah, somebody put in the chat, African Americans and Africans.com.
Yeah, white slavery as well.
Yeah. Well, I got another book, man. I didn't bring it, though. It's called White Cargo. But I got White Cargo.
All right, y'all. Let me show you this up front so you can see the life size. And here's Lisa. Hi, Lisa.
Baby.
Say hi.
Hey, we're having a good time.
This event.
People
She's
are
the guardian of the Acomats.
It's been a really good turnout considering rain and COVID. Are you kidding me? Right? I'm excited. It's
You did
good.
great. You did so good.
So excited. It's not me, it's the ancestors, child. They be doing stuff. They make things happen weird. It's not weird, it's amazing. It's amazing. But I'm excited. Everybody made it. We're about to go outside and watch the bow hunter demonstrate to us because the rain let up a little bit.
Okay, y'all.
She said she can do it.
Let me see if I can charge my phone up so I can get some film for you guys later, okay?
Attention everyone, outside there'll be a demonstration by the bow hunter. Yeah, the bow hunter will be demonstrating outside. She is amazing. She's gonna set up her target. So if you will step outside, you can kind of catch her before it starts raining again.
All right, y'all. Yeah, shout out to Lisa. You met, Kerry said shout out to you, other Kerry. All right, thank you guys. Yeah, I'm gonna charge the phone up a little for a couple of minutes, and then I'm gonna try to get y'all some footage out there and post it later. All right, thank you guys so much. Please share the video out right now so we can get the word out. People need to know that information, okay? And maybe it'll be easier for some of y'all to explain to your family members if they watch other people talk about it. And you don't have to keep drilling it in their head, okay? All right, thank you guys. So Anna. I forgot to say in the Power to language to say goodbye, we say Anna. So Anna.